Yes, indeed. Welcome into another episode of Total Hockey Now. Thanks for bearing with us. A few minutes, some technical delays here. I am at Pucking Thoughts, Adam Bernard. The man to my left, Anthony Rivera at Ant Rivera 86. And, of course, the man down below at Fuzzy Chris 91. Christopher Murray, there he is. Folks, we are right in the middle of mockey season here. We got our first one in the books last week. We got number 2 coming at you later today. It's definitely hot. It's a great way to cool off. Also, we're going to talk Pacific Division odds today, thinking beachy kind of teams and what coastal teams, middle of the summer. And of course, we're going to do our top 10 fantasy goalie rankings as well. Because, Jacob Markstrom's, went to the Devils. So that maybe made a bit of a difference in who's going to be where in the top 10. Jeremy Swayman not really splitting a workload as much anymore. So things need to move around a little bit. So we're going to do that for you later. We're going to compile a top 10 amongst the three of us. So I'm sure there'll be some debate. But, Ant, how we doing? How's the week going? Chris, same for you.
Going well. I'm glad I don't have the green screen of death like I showed you before on my computer, because otherwise this wasn't going to work for me. But excited to be here. Excited for mock draft number 2. Excited to get into the top 10 goalies as well. It's going to be a fun show, guys.
Very excited.
I am just as excited. Every day we move closer to hockey. I know it just ended, or at least it feels like it has, but mock draft season means that we are slowly getting there, and then more platforms are going to have it, and then we're really going to start to see rankings make sense and not all goalies be at like 300 plus ADP anymore. So we're getting there. We're slowly advancing. If you thought we were going to have a long summer, strap in.
Yeah. I think we also have to address the elephant in the room of not being on X right now live, because they have new rules on streaming to X. So right now we're just on YouTube, and that's how it's going to be for the time being. But excited for everyone that tunes in and is a part of the show, and appreciate you all for being here.
We do miss you on Twitter for those that would tune in there. But hey, new home here on still the same YouTube home, and the clips will be up on Twitter as well as Facebook as well. But let's not waste any time.
Elon.
It was silly. There was nothing wrong with what we were doing, but hey, what are you going to do? But it's time to get a quick hits here, and we just got a couple of quick ones today. The Columbus Blue Jackets finally have a head coach. Kind of weird to have that news come down for a team that was vacant for a while on July 23rd here. But he spent parts of 5 seasons with the Minnesota Wild as their head coach. Amassed a 147, 77, and 27 record while he was there. Columbus fired Pascal Vincent, a little over a month ago. And he was let's say here, Everson was a finalist for the Jack Adams Award in 2021. Minnesota did make the playoffs in each of his seasons that he was there until the year he got fired. So that's a very Blue Jackets hiring. Get a guy who's got some proven track record on a team, usually with a little bit of a limited talent budget or financial budget, squeezing the lemon and getting as much juice as you can. So I think that's a good Columbus hiring.
Yeah, stay away from the phones, Dean Everson. Stay away from the phones. Don't ask what's in it. But I was shocked to see his record. 147, 77, and 27. Not terrible. That's not bad.
That's not bad at all.
Understand, like the Minnesota Wild were obviously not a great offensive team. So I think it's par for the course now that he ends up in Columbus. We'll see what he can milk out of that team. I'm really happy that Creed Bratton 2.0 found a job. So because I feel like he was a good coach, and I think maybe it was just the struggles in Minnesota a little bit. Like they were exceptionally bad defensively. They weren't getting any goaltending, and it's easier to just fire a coach when that happens. But I feel like this is maybe good for Columbus. They need a little bit of good.
They need somebody to steady the ship, and that's what he'll do. And
this is coach number 3 in like 18 months. I don't know. Maybe keep this one. Just thoughts.
Oh yeah, give him a little security.
Yeah, I really thought that Minnesota was going to take the next step last year, especially with the goalie tandem that they had, and they kind of just didn't get off to a good start at all. And Dean going to Columbus, he's got a lot of work cut out for him, because now they have been through 2 coaches in 1 season. So that's fun.
Yeah, and it's not, it's not as tough a division as it used to be, but I think that's, as far as that's a very Columbus hiring, but I think it makes sense, and I think he'll have, maybe he can get them to this next step or the next level. That's probably what that guy is going to be doing for them. Other quick news here: the Calgary Flames took a major step forward in their transition to a new home. The construction officially began on a new facility, and it'll be known as Scotia Place. Now, I have a question for Chris. You name hockey arenas after anybody else but Scotia and Rogers. Is that all you got? Like, I know there's a couple others, but it seems like that out of your 7, what is that, like 4?
Pretty sure, right? I don't know. I'm kind of I'm kind of confused as to which one is like Scotia Place, Scotia Arena, Scotia Center, whatever else they want to call it. Scotia's clearly got the money to dish out for some naming rights. I think they're just trying to take over whatever they can. Same thing with Rogers, I guess. They just got to keep dishing out money to put their name on things. If I did have a preference, though, I would prefer it to be Scotia. They have an excellent rewards program. Can't say the same about Rogers. So, but I mean, I don't know. Like, what's the budget that they have? Anytime an arena needs a name, they're just are they the first to submit a blank check and say, just let it ride? Like, I feel like at one point maybe they'll call it like well, no, they can't. I was gonna say Rogers Center for Montreal, but I was like, I already have one of those. So I don't know. Maybe they'll call it like Place Rogers, right? If Bell ever runs out of money.
Vancouver and Toronto are both Rogers, or excuse me, Edmonton, Vancouver are both Rogers arenas. Toronto and soon to be Calgary are both Scotia, right? You got the Canadian Tire Center in Ottawa. You got the Canada Life Center in Winnipeg, and then, like you said, Bell Center there in Montreal. So
true, very, very, a lot of very, very Canadian names there. A lot of Canada there.
They've been in the Saddle Dome since '83, which is the second oldest building in the league behind the Garden. But the Madison Square Garden has gone under renovations in the last 10 or so years. So yeah, I'd like to maybe try and get to the Saddle Dome before it closes down. I got a little bit of time. Maybe I'll get the Rangers up there at some point. Although should I? No, there's no reason to go to Calgary.
I mean, I guess if you want to go watch Edmonton play, I feel like if I was going to watch like two teams kind of battle it out that did involve the Montreal Canadiens, I would watch Calgary and Edmonton go at it. Battle of Alberta on a Saturday. I'd sign up for that.
That's pretty good.
I don't know, man. Don't want to hang out in Calgary in like February.
See, but I've been to Edmonton. I've been to a game there. I haven't been that's why Calgary would probably. I'd go to Calgary before Winnipeg.
It's true. No offense, Winnipeg, right? But north of Minnesota, like that's rough. So, yeah, no.
Winnipeg and Columbus, they're like sister cities in NHL terms, pretty much.
There's no need to go to Columbus. I've been. It's fine. Just look up a picture, and you have seen Columbus.
Now, we were talking some Calgary Flames. What better way to transition over to talking some Pacific Division odds here? Let's get those odds up on the screen. So clearly Edmonton, we know, is the odds-on favorite, having represented the West in the Stanley Cup Finals and essentially returning the same team. You got the Oilers there at plus 130. Vegas coming up at number 2 at plus 310. The Kings at plus 450 over the Canucks, the defending division champs, at plus 490. Then over on the right side there, you got the Kraken at plus 1,500. The Flames at plus 3,500. The new look Ducks at plus 12,000. And the Macklin Celebrinis at 15,000. So there you go. I don't really think anybody's picking anybody on the right to win the division. Even if you had a hunch on Seattle, I still think that's a pretty far way to go. But we can focus on the left side there. And I'll talk about those 4 teams, unless you think Seattle's got a chance. I don't know. Maybe you do. Does anybody here think Seattle's got a chance, or any of those other teams on the right?
Nah, Seattle disappointed me last year. I thought that they were going to at least get that final spot in the playoffs, and they just completely disappointed me. So I don't think anyone on that right side is going to make any sort of move just yet. I'm shocked that Vancouver is below the Los Angeles Kings, considering that even Vegas a little bit, because considering the season that they had overall, I thought that Vancouver was one of the best teams to come out of that, conference.
I mean, let's disregard every team on the right there. My apologies to the good fans of those teams, but we're like, just mail it in for another year. It's fine. But I would sprinkle a little bit on Vancouver just because I think some people don't think that they're legit. And maybe I feel the same way a little bit. I'm like, can you really, though, compete? But I mean, most of that team is still intact, right? They get that, right? They add the Brusque. Thatcher Demko's there. I don't think the loss of Elias Lindholm's really going to matter. So, like, can they run it back? Sure. I think having Edmonton be the favorite makes sense. They are the most dominant team in that division. I would make sure to pay attention to the Vegas Golden Knights because, again, we know Vegas, right? Cap friendly may have gone away, but we're going to find a way to figure out how you're going to circumvent the cap. And come February, they're adding somebody to their roster, and they already get a full year now of Thomas Hertl. So there's a lot there. That's a good hockey team still. Very good hockey team. It's a question of health for Vegas, right? Can their goaltending stay healthy? Can their stars stay healthy? How's Mark Stone's back? Does he need an epidural? If you can get all those things sorted out, then you're going to be just fine. There's no reason that Vegas can't compete in that division. I think it's a 2-horse race there between Edmonton and Vegas. I just don't know what the Kings are doing, man. Are we buyers? Are we sellers? Are we trying to make it? Like, you trade Pierre-Luc Dubois, but like, I don't know, man. I just don't know what we're doing. You go out to get Kemper. Like, I don't know. I don't know what the LA Kings are.
I'll tell you one thing. I'm not buying into the Kings.
I'm not buying into the Kings as division favorites, but I'll say this, and this, is a little foreshadowing for when we talk goalies later. We know how bad Georgiev was in Colorado this year. Darcy Kemper may have not been the reason the Avalanche won the Stanley Cup, but he was good enough to take it's a similar team and steady the ship enough. And I know he wasn't great that playoffs, but he's going to play for an LA team that's going to be a lot more defensively minded. They're going to be, he's going to have better play in front of him. So I think that helps him to a degree. Let's look at the goalies for all 4 of the teams on the left there with Edmonton. We talked about the Kings. Let me go to Vancouver. Artur Shilov's proved that he can play in the playoffs. Now, maybe he's got Akira Schmid syndrome where he looked like he could play against the Rangers in the playoffs that year, and then we saw the following year, maybe not so much. But they're going to play him more because Demko gets hurt, so they're going to rest him a little bit more. So you're going to have a little bit more of a balance there. And if Shilovs can play even 80% as good as he played, as well as he played in the playoffs, that's good for a backup that's going to play a little more than your average backup. So yeah, the Canucks I would put them above the Kings for sure. Edmonton, we know it's Stuart Skinner with Calvin Pickard going out there every 5th night or so. That's just what they're going to run. And then Vegas, the goaltending situation, it's Samsonov and it's Aiden Hill. Probably going to be a 50-50 workload. And we know that, they played good defensive hockey in front of them and goaltenders play well behind them. So I think it's Edmonton's division to lose, but Vegas or Vancouver, you can't go wrong with either of those.
If you're going just based off the goalies, you close your eyes for a second and you think of all those 4 teams there. Isn't Thatcher Demko the best out of all of those goalies right now? Even with the injury. He was the best goalie out of all of them for an entire season. I know he got hurt for the playoffs and stuff like that, but he was the best goalie. Like, we're talking, in season to win the division. Outside of Edmonton, I would be going Vancouver here. And I know Vegas is going to be in it to win it as well. But if I'm going off of just the goalies, to me, Thatcher Demko is the best goalie out of those 4 teams.
He's the best goalie in that division.
In the playoffs? He didn't do enough in the playoffs for Edmonton to kind of bump him closer to Demko status?
No.
I don't think so.
I think he benefited from the team a little bit. I will say this, though, because Adam, you seem to have a lot of faith a little faith in Darcy Kemper. I think you're suffering from the Martin Jones syndrome, which makes sense because he was in San Jose at some point. I don't know what the under is on Darcy Kemper's win total this year, but it is the mortgage on the under. The man cannot stay healthy, and that's problem number 1. So problem number 2, he's not very good because you talked about a more defensive team. The Capitals struggled to score goals, but they weren't like terrible defensively. This wasn't the worst defensive hockey team we've ever seen. They couldn't score goals. And Charlie Lindgren played on that same team. So figure it out. He wasn't very good during Colorado's run. Went to Washington, was not very good there. Now he's going to the Pacific Division. As bad as the Pacific may be, he has to face the Edmonton Oilers a couple of times, right? If we believe that the Vancouver Canucks are legit, that he's got to face them. Let's disregard Seattle completely. They don't exist. Doesn't matter. Thanks for coming. And Vegas is still good. Vegas still has powerhouse guys who could score. Calgary, forget it. Mail it in. Thanks for coming. And then Anaheim and San Jose are like terrible hockey teams. There's some good players. Well, maybe not San Jose. Okay. Just Anaheim. Decent players in that lineup that can score goals. Like he's gonna have to play some pretty competitive teams. And the Central's good too. So I just don't feel like he's got the tools necessary to win enough hockey games. I'm hoping his over-under on wins is like 28, 29.
That's a little high.
Look, one could dream, all right?
I take the under on that too.
I would too, right? But nothing in the 24, 25. But I'm just saying the mortgage is on the under on Darcy Kemper. He is slowly entering the Martin Jones fan club. Alexander Gorgiev is the vice president because he is a complete and utter just walking fraud. He's going to end up in Washington at some point or back there, I think. No, sorry. He was with the New York Rangers. He's going to end up in Washington at some point because he is the exact definition of a fraud. He gets a lot of wins, but he does not help the team. So Darcy's on that list too. He's, I don't know, Secretary of State to the fraud department or of the Martin Jones Club, whatever.
He's in the cabinet.
Oh, he's definitely in there. If you're drafting Darcy Kemper and you're expecting big things, boy, let me sell you a timeshare.
So, all right. So what it sounds like here is our three teams that actually have a chance to win the division are Edmonton, Vegas, and Vancouver. We're ruling the Kings out as division favorite, playoff team, but not a division team.
Yeah.
With those three teams on the table, you can either take the safe option and place it on Edmonton, or you can place your money on Vegas or Vancouver. Where are you placing your money amongst those three teams? Edmonton plus 130, Vegas plus 310, Vancouver plus 490.
Vancouver for me, 490. That's a good value. I mean, they were there, right? Like they did it. So It's not an impossible task. It may, and I get that. I mean, the Edmonton had a terrible start, right? But the Edmonton Oilers are still, they're still the Edmonton Oilers, right? Like, you know what you're going to get out of them. They're a lot of fun to watch offensively, but this is not a great defensive team. So I think that's the best value. That's the best value in my books.
And Rick Tocchet was coach of the year. It's not like he's going to forget how to coach like over the summer. You know, he's going to be a better coach next year.
Right.
I gotta agree. I think the 490 for Vancouver is the way to go. I think that the fact that they are, what is it, fourth in those odds right there? Yes. After winning the division, even with the hurt Demko, the Oilers had to go on an incredible midseason run and, turn their whole season around to get within one game of the Canucks, and the Canucks kind of ran roughshod the whole entire season. I think that they're being very undermanned. I hope they're looking at the odds too, being like, why are we fourth when we won the division? The Oilers finished second, the Kings finished third, and the Golden Knights finished fourth. So I'm going with the team that has, to me, is the best goalie in that division. And I'm going, like Chris, with Vancouver there.
Stay tuned. We're going to be talking about our top 10 fantasy goalies in a minute. We'll see what Thatcher Demko ranks because we're going to pool our, votes together to establish with the Total Hockey Now 10. We're not doing our own three. We're going to just formulate it live on the air. So maybe some arguments. We'll see. My turn here for the Pacific Division. I think Vegas is a second or a third place team. I don't think they're in the wild card discussion like last year. I think you could put them there. I'm not ready to say that they're going to either beat Vancouver, the defending champs, or Edmonton. Now, you mentioned before that Edmonton start was terrible. Vancouver definitely benefited from that early start, that horrendous start for Edmonton, because Edmonton was closing the gap, but they had such a cushion that it was like they didn't even really have to look over their shoulder too much, maybe a glance at the rearview mirror, but they never broke their neck. I think it's a little different this year. I think Stuart Skinner has established himself. I think Edmonton proved that they could play better defensive hockey this season in the playoffs and under Chris Knobloch in general. So I'm going to take the safe money in this division. I'm going to go Edmonton plus 130. I'll probably I would say Vancouver second, Vegas third, the Kings fourth. That would be, and I'll give the Kings a wild card spot. We'll examine the Central Division next week. But yeah, I think you're going to look at those 4 teams on the left. We'll pull the graphic up one more time. I think that's what you're looking at as playoff representation from the Pacific Division.
Don't forget, too, that Edmonton barely squeaked by Vancouver in the second round of the playoffs, taking it to a 7 games as well. So that's something also to consider going into next season. I'm pretty sure they'll be out for blood.
Those divisional matchups will mean everything because, the standings in the Pacific come down to just a small handful there. So you definitely want to have that edge. All right. So we've been talking a lot of goalies here. I think it's time to talk a little fantasy hockey goalies for the 2024-25 season there. You see you got some of the top candidates there. Igor Shesterkin, Jake Ettinger, Jeremy Swayman, and Connor Hellebuck, of course, the defending Vezina winner. So let's get that off the screen there. Let's get this on the screen. And let's talk so who we're going to put at number 1. Now, Connor Hellebuck tends to be the, consensus number 1 here. I think I'm okay with that. He's not who I have at number 1 on my list, but I'm okay putting him there. Who do you guys have as your number 1 goaltender?
We're talking about regular season for fantasy hockey, and I have to stick with Connor Hellebuck. Top 3 games started, top 2 in wins and saves, and the Jets led the league in save percentage. And he's most of that goaltending in net that whole season. So I got to go Connor Hellebuck there at number 1.
Gonna get the workload.
I went with Igor Shesterkin. I felt like that was just the play. I get how good Connor Hellebuck is. I want to trust the Jets, right? And I mean, Hellebuck will prove you wrong every day of the week, right? But I'm worried about the workload. I'm worried about how much he has to play. I don't know with the coaching change now. Like there's a little bit. There's a couple of question marks. And if I'm taking the first goalie off the board, I'm taking a stud, like an absolute stud where there's no setback, where I don't have to worry about anything, and there's no question marks in my mind, and that is Igor Shesterkin. He plays on the best team in the division, loaded up front, very good defensively. I don't know how good Jonathan Quick's going to be, but if Jonathan Quick, let's say, stumbles a little bit, then they're just going to pump Igor out there a ton. So he's going to play a ton of games. I'm okay with it. I like the Rangers over the Jets, so that's my.
We're forgetting one key point here, because I also have Igor Shesterkin as my number 1, and this is the deciding factor over Connor Hellebuck. Contract year. Can't forget about the contract year.
Contract year, yeah. If he wants to make 15 mil, he's going to need one of those Vezina style seasons. Oh, contract year, lock him in 1.
All right, so Igor Shesterkin wins out 2-1 there. So next up, I would agree if Anthony's got Connor Hellebuck number 1. Who do you got number 2? Because I've got Hellebuck number 2. I am very okay putting him as the second best goaltender.
I have
for fantasy purposes.
I have Jake Ottinger. I like I get the Dallas Stars. Like, yes, the loss of Joe Pavelski is one thing, but Wyatt Johnson's right there, and the Dallas Stars they're just good. Right? They're just good. I know it wasn't a great year for Jake Ottinger, but he was still a top fantasy goalie. So let's use the term loosely. He bounces back, right? To me, he's right there. If somebody, I would put him 2, and I would have no issues looking at that. I think Jake Ottinger can go 2. Connor Hellebuck there as well would be fine. I just have Ottinger as 2 because I just think the situation for him is a little bit better.
And who did you have? So you had Connor Hellebuck number 1. Who did you have as your second?
I had UC Saros at number 2. Tops in games started and in saves. He's got a new contract. He's got a better team in front of him, and Nashville's ready to roll this season. They did all these big signings in the offseason, so I think it's going to be that. I had UC Saros at number 2.
All right, we've got a debate here a little bit earlier than I thought. So who are we plugging in that second hole? UC Saros, Connor Hellebuck, or Jake Ottinger?
I feel it has to be Connor Hellebuck, no, because I had him at number one.
I would be okay. You can sway my vote to have Connor Hellebuck at 2. That is fine with me. I will accept that.
I would have been okay with Hellebuck or Jake Ottinger there, although I did move Saros up in my standings for sure. So we're going to go with Connor Hellebuck in Winnipeg there. He's going to get only one vote this time. We'll see how that goes. We'll see how many times we get, if we get any sort of consensus picks there. So, okay, so now at 3, you had Jake Ottinger second. I had Jake Ottinger third. Ant's got UC Saros second. Who did you have third?
I had Connor Hellebuck at 3rd.
Okay. And
I had Ottinger at number 3.
So I think we got 2 votes, and plus he's the second place vote for Chris. We both got him in 3rd. I think that's a fair place to put Mr. Ottinger. And yeah, so we've got 3 goalies in the books here for our top rankings. No real surprises so far. Maybe Shesterkin over Hellebuck a little bit, but not too much there. So 4th place on the list here. So we still have UC Saros sitting out there with the high vote. I did have Saros 5th. Who I put 4th? Jeremy Swayman. Really good team. Played really well in the playoffs for the Bruins. It's not going to be like an every other day thing like Linus Ullmark. Now, yeah, he's got to prove himself that he's, a 70-30 goalie, but I don't worry about Eunice Korpisalo stealing too many starts from him. He's just going to be the guy they trot out to give Swayman a break. I think they've improved. They added Zadorov, they added Lindholm to give him a little more center depth, which is something we've criticized about the Bruins in the past. I've got Swayman 4, but I recognize that might be a little bit high.
Yeah, that's way too much confidence in a goalie that is not the traditional starter, right? He's not Connor Hellebuck. I want to see a little bit more from him. I want to see a little bit more from the Bruins as well. I want to see a little bit more from Jeremy Swayman before I'm investing a top pick. I think last year in fantasy, a lot of people were comfortable knowing the split they were going to get because they were both elite. Now you're going to get a case of where he plays more, and you're like, hey, does that help him? Right? Because even if Korpisalo gets more starts and he does well, that's fine. I'll take the quality of starts from Jeremy Swayman, but I don't know in the 4-hole. I have Ilya Sorokin. He was the top goalie off the board 1 year ago. And look, the New York Islanders are as boring as it gets as a hockey team, but they also went out to get Patrick Watt, who somebody understands the goaltending position. It's him. And I think that team, the Islanders, and their identity is defense first. This is not a team that's going to score goals. This is also a team that cannot give up that many shots. They were so poor defensively, giving up way too many scoring chances. I can't believe that will exist again. I don't know if Patrick Waugh is going to turn it around, really, but Ilya Sorokin kind of feels a little bit like peak John Gibson and peak Carey Price. Great goalie, absolutely miserable hockey team. So if you're in a league that counts wins, it's going to be tough for Ilya Sorokin. It's going to be tough to pick up wins. And Semyon Varlamov got a lot of starts. And we know Patrick Waugh just does what he wants a little bit, right? He's a roller coaster. That's why I had him 4 here. But that to me feels like a discount. If I can get Ilya Sorokin, if he's in my book at 4, he's on the turn from 2 into 3 as my first goalie, depending on who my first 2 picks were. I'm okay with that.
See, I've got Sorokin on a top 10, but he's a little bit lower there. So you got Sorokin 4, Ant. What do you got?
See, I don't have Sorokin in my top 10. I think he really disappointed me last season. You said this Islanders team is defense first, right? I mean, he wasn't even better than Varlamov.
At times, yeah, Varlamov became the guy for them.
And even with Patrick Waugh, did we see any difference from Sorokin? Maybe this year it comes into play, but I don't know. I did not have him in my top 10. I will say this, and this is not a fandom thing. This is not also, I did not put into account the contract that he was going to be a free agent, but I did have Igor Shesterkin at 4. I I just think that this Rangers team is running out of time, and they made no improvements to make themselves better into this season. And I don't know. I think it's going to come back to hurt them this season. Maybe Shesterkin plays to the best of his ability, and maybe it is on the contract. I just had him fourth. So I would have had him higher if I remembered about him being a free agent in the offseason, but I had him at 4. Doesn't matter. You guys have had a 1 anyway.
State of Survival tuning in. Thanks as always. Sorokin was overplayed. They wore him out. Also, the Islanders are going to be playing more of an offensive system under Patrick Roy. Bad season, and he gets a .912 save percentage. Very fair point there by Sorokin. All right, so time to decide who we're putting fourth. I got Sorokin a little bit lower. Chris has him at 4. Ant doesn't have him in the top 10. I had Swayman there. I could be swayed. What do we think about UC Saros being our number 4 goaltender because of the Nashville improvements? He was already a really good goaltender, but because they were kind of like a wild card team or maybe a third place team, now he's got a better team in front of him. So I had him at 5th. I'm okay putting him at 4th now.
I don't even think they had him in the playoffs, right? I don't think anyone had Nashville going to the playoffs this last season.
I certainly didn't.
Yeah.
I had them on the cusp as a wild card team. So all right. So we're going to put UC Saros there, and he got how many fourth place votes? None, but he got 2 fifth place and a 3rd place. So
if you're reaching on Saros, though, just be ready to be disappointed. Right? It's one of those things where you strap in, understanding it's a roller coaster, and you know what you're getting in. Okay, you're going to McDonald's. Do not expect 5-star cuisine, right? You know what you're in there with there, right? I get that the team is better, but we've seen teams go out, get better, and then not be better. So also don't forget, young kid waiting in the, everybody thought UC Saros was going to end up somewhere else. And now all of a sudden he's,
Oh, they're going to trade Askarov. They're not going to hold on to him. Maybe they do. They'll hold on to him as long as they can, but you signed the goalie for 8 years.
But I feel like maybe the leash is a little bit shorter, right? If you have a kid who you can show off, right? Because if he's not playing, you're going to have a hard time selling me on needing a 1st-round pick and a top-round prospect. You know what I mean? It is what it is.
Even the Panthers waited a couple of years on that long contract before they went out and got Spencer Knight. So, we'll see. So those are our top 4. Now we got to place 5th. I already said I had Saros there. Swayman was my 4th place goalie. We got Sorokin still on the board. What did we have for 5th place goaltenders here?
There was no way that I was going to do a top 5 and not include the goalie that went to back-to-back Stanley Cup championships and has finally won one with Florida. I know that the workload is high. That's probably my biggest concern is the fact that they went to back-to-back Stanley Cups and now he's got all his games and minutes logged in here. But I have to put Bobrovsky at number 5.
I had him down at 8. And I think this is the last year where he's going to get a heavy amount of starts, and then they'll start to work Spencer Knight in maybe this year, but I think next year maybe is when you see more of that 50-50 split as a transition. So I don't have a problem with Bobrovsky being 5th, but like you pointed out, the amount of hockey he's played over the last couple of years is a concern for me.
I had Saros at 5. Are we just going to forget that Sorokin exists? We're
not going to forget. I had him at 10. Anthony didn't have him there.
I forgot about him.
This was the number 1 goalie off some boards last year.
We'll increase his stock a little there. Okay. Yeah, and I agree. I don't know if he should fall that far for one, we'll say a couple of
will point it out, by the way, a bad year and a .912 save percentage. .912 is good today in the modern hockey, considering how many goals are scored. .912, it's not elite, but it's good on a bad year. Okay. There are some goalies nowhere near .912.
All right, so we'll put Sorokin 5th. Now we're down to 6. We still got Jeremy Swayman on the board. The person I had at 6 is Jacob Markstrom, vastly improving his situation. Now I understand Jake Allen's there. He's a veteran. They're going to play him. They want to keep Markstrom fresh for the playoffs, but I think just going to playing the way he played, and now he's going to a team that's going to score goals in front of him and win more games. I think his stock has bumped him up enough that he could be a 6th place goaltender. But of course, I still got Swayman at 4, so I'm happy to put him here at 6. What do you guys got?
I At 6, I had to put the goalie we've been just talking about for most of this show here, and who I think is the best in that conference we just talked about. I got Thatcher Demko at number 6.
All right. And Chris?
I actually had Jacob Markstrom at 6 for all the reasons you pointed out. He's going to, much improved team. I'm not worried about Jake Allen. Jake Allen has been part of these like 2 and 3 headed monsters. So you don't go out and get Jacob Markstrom to sit him, right? You go out to get him so he can be part of the solution, right? So I feel like he's going to play a lot, and it's up to him to figure it out, right? New team. I don't know how good the Devils are defensively. If they're healthy, shouldn't be a problem. If the Devils possess the puck, you don't have to worry about goaltending. If you possess the puck, the Devils are a high possession team. They need it because they have a lot of skilled players. So I'm perfectly fine with him being there.
So do we put Sergei Bobrovsky at 7? Do we put Jeremy Swayman at 7? Do we have an alternate candidate that I'm not thinking about at 7? Andrei Vasilevsky is who I had at 7 in my ranking, so I'm going to throw his name out there because he's going to get the bulk of the starts. So what are we thinking here for our 7th ranked goaltender?
I have Swayman at 7.
I also have Swayman at 7, but then again, I also had Bobrovsky and Demko 5, 6. But I guess if all 3 of us have Swayman at 7, then it's consensus.
Where he belongs.
Yep. See, I had him at 4. So yeah, if you two have him at 7 and I got him a little higher, yeah, we got to put him down there. All right, so we got Jeremy Swayman, and you got 2 votes for that. So okay, still got Bobrovsky on the board, got Vasilevsky on the board. We got Demko on the board. This is where I had Bobo. So what are we thinking here? Any other 8th place candidates that we should be throwing in the mix? Maybe a Stuart Skinner. I don't know.
I do. I'm going to say this, and I hate it. And I don't want to hear I don't want a single tweet from a Leafs fan saying I haven't given you anything. I have Joseph Wall.
I had him on the list, and then I took him off for Sorokin.
I had Joseph Wall. I had Joseph Wall on the list. I'm going to tell you why. Toronto is not better defensively. They are not about defense. But Joseph Wall has proven that he can play. Now the question is staying healthy, and there is no competition in Toronto for that spot. It's him or it's nobody. It's not Matt Murray. It's not. Stolarz, it's nobody. It's Joseph Wall, and that's it. And Toronto is still a very good team that can play. I know, no sample size, but this is one of those things where we just kind of throw some darts here, right? If Toronto can be a decent team with all the terrible goaltenders that have been part of that franchise before, I'm sure Joseph Wall, to me, is the goalie with the most upside. Some of you were drafting Ilya Samsonov early. So if you were one of those people who were willing to take Ilya Samsonov, you cannot come to me now and say, no, we can't take Joseph Wall because sample size is this, or we don't know if he's good enough because you took the others. And we were, and you got burned, as you should have. But Toronto's going to score goals. So at worst, Joseph Wall becomes Alexander Gorgiev, kind of. And a lot of you are willing to draft him, right? So
if you're a league that values wins as well, Wall's going to get them. So that if you have a win premium league, then that that improves his stock too. I'll put him in the last 3. I don't know if I'm ready to put him at 8 when I still got a Bobrovsky and a Demko out there.
I looked at my screen for about 30 seconds at Joseph Wall, and then I was like, nah, I can't put him in the top 10. But I see Chris's strategy here. He's softening up the Toronto fans so that during the season he can hit them hard and he can get at them.
Look,
I see the strategy.
Ilya Samsonov last year played 40 games, 23, 7, and 8, 890 save percentage, 313 goals against average. He might be who sits next to he might be the COO of the Martin Jones fan club, because those are some outrageously terrible numbers. But again, he gets wins. So if you're in a league that rewards it, you shouldn't. But if you are, you can't tell me that you can't take the risk on Joseph Wall. Can't tell me you're not willing to do it. It's not great, and I will gladly let him slide. Right? If he's going too early, let it rip. You know what I mean? If all of a sudden you see the goalie run start, and Joseph Wall is there, you can pass on it. We don't have to take the entree. But I'm just saying it's really hard for you to defend saying I was willing to take other goalies when Joseph Wall has the most upside here. That's what I'm
So Wall is going to be the
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, sorry. Wall is going to be the goalie that benefits most from his team and not from like, obviously he's talented, but he's not on this list going to benefit from his own talent. It's going to be because the rest of Toronto is a pretty decent team.
If he can do both, though, like then he's in. You know what I mean? Like he can finish top 3 as a goalie, but he's got to be good, right? Which I think he can. It's more of a question of health. How many games is he going to play? And that comes down to, well, how healthy can he play, right? If he plays 55 games and he's good, he can be up there in that top 3 in fantasy. He can get there. The floor is just, it could be a little low, but the ceiling here, exceptionally high. Don't forget, he's got to play Montreal a bunch of times. The Canadiens are still the Canadiens, right? Ottawa, oh my God, the Ottawa Senators. Like, imagine having to play them. So there are some games that are like, I know the Atlantic's it's an absolute bloodbath as well. Let's figure out what the Metropolitan is at some point. But I don't know, man. Toronto's got a ton of skill there. If they're running the core 4 again, this team is looking for some consistency. It's got to be Wool.
All right. So
I will live with Bobrovsky there.
So, all right, we'll live with Bobrovsky here. So it sounds like we got 2 spots and we got 3 goalies we're considering: Andrei Vasilevskiy, Joseph Wall, and Thatcher Demko. So now it's time to figure out which one of those 3 you're not going to include there. So we know how Chris feels about Joseph Wall. So that means it's either Demko or Vasilevskiy that you're not putting in your top 10, Chris. So who's that going to be?
I don't have Demko in my top 10. I have him at 11. I have him outside of that. I would have no problem putting him 9, though. I would have no problem. I would gladly put there. I have Andrei Vasilevskiy at 10.
And who of those 3?
I had Demko 6. I have Vasilevskiy 8. And who's the third?
Joseph Wall, who you didn't have.
I did not have Joseph Wall.
Okay. I can live with having Demko at 9 and Vasilevskiy at 10. Vasilevskiy has to be a top 10 goalie. I know it's not great in Tampa Bay with all the changes that are happening. What is this team going to look like? Andrei Vasilevskiy is elite, and we saw that. They were not as good when he wasn't in the lineup, and when he came back, like, it wasn't all unicorns and butterflies, but I can't imagine him not being a top 10 goalie in fantasy. I just can't.
All right.
Well, to finish off my list, I had Stuart Skinner 9, and I had Jacob Markstrom 10, but you guys already had put him 6. So thank you for that.
So I also had Stuart Skinner in my top 10, but there's no way I'm not. And I had Demko 11. This is what I was going to say about Thatcher Demko. And we've talked about the importance of goalie handcuffing here. That if you have Demko, you have to invest, even if it's a little bit of a reach, you have to go get Shelovs. You cannot or if you're going to go goalie deep and you're going to go with heavy goaltenders early, where you have 3 quality options, and if Demko's out, all right, fine, you're still there. But if you take Demko and you don't get that reliable number 2, then you have to spend the draft capital on Shelovs, because they're going to give him a little bit of an increased workload over an average backup, keep Demko healthy, and there's always the possibility Demko gets hurt. So then you have that built-in security there. I see State of Survival chiming in. Jarry is available. I can't believe he's not on the list. Super top goalie. Varlamov could be argued to be on that list too. And that's another point too. If we talked about Sorokin being in the top 10, it might not hurt to throw a late-round pick on Varlamov. Maybe he's not on your roster in a month or 2, but just in case Sorokin's struggles continue, you have the Islanders. You at least have the Islanders goaltending, and Varlamov played pretty well in front of them last year. So there's our top 10 rankings. We want to know what your top 10 rankings are as well. Hit us up at totalhockeynow@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on Twitter. You got all of our handles there. I'm going to get ready to get this next mock draft going here. So
I'm interested in seeing if he puts it in the chat, State of Survival. Who are you replacing, putting Jarry and Varlamov in the top 10 of our list?
I want nothing to do with Tristan Jarry. I want him to fall off. If I believe that the earth was flat, I'd want him to fall off the edge. He's just not it for me.
I put the link to the mock draft that the 3 of us are going to do, but if you want to join in as well, it's there in the YouTube comments, and I'm going to tweet that out right now as well. So fellas, jump on in. I'm going to make sure we spread out the picks. I was in the first 3 last time. Today, I'm going to take the 7 spot there. So somebody go early, somebody go late, so we can dictate the pace of the draft. And that's going to get going here in about 2.5 minutes. We'll keep the results of our top 10 fantasy hockey goalies up there on the screen until we are ready to rock here in the draft. I see Chris also going late again, so Anthony will go early. I'm going to move up to 6 to spread it out just a tad. And then Ant's got to go in one of the first 3 picks. I know we know you were joking about Jari, buddy. I think we could pick it. Nobody's taking Jari in their top 15, maybe top 20. We'll see, but he's not top 20. Definitely not top 10. Varley, has to be 9 or 10, and I mean, he's got to be in there. He's got to be. Well, I don't know if you could have 2 Islanders goalies on the list. I don't know if I do that. The pairing, yes, but the top 5 pairing, not going to put. I don't know if I could have Sorokin in the top 10 with some other names still there on the board. Let's see here. We got Andy's awesome team jumping in. So maybe he's mocking with us. We are 2 minutes away from entering the draft room and conducting our second mock draft of the summer. Very excited about that. Any goalies on the list that maybe somebody is like a hidden gem? For me, one of those guys is Connor Ingram, because the Utah Hockey Club invested heavily in their blue line in the offseason. So he's going to have better play in front of him. Not saying he's a guy that's I would say maybe you can put him in that 12 to 15 range. That's where I would maybe look at him. But that's a guy that could absolutely maybe outplay his draft value this year.
This room is starting to light up right now. We already got 3 other players in there: Vincent's Spirited Team and Steve's Smart Team. So keep them coming. Whoever wants to join in.
Absolutely, we are, and I'm gonna go on over on Twitter right now, and in the comments, we're gonna put the link in there if you want to participate.
For me, the hidden goalie, I guess, a little bit, Aiden Hill. He's still on a very good hockey team. Now that Logan Thompson is there, again, a question with Aiden Hill is always about health. Can he stay healthy? But now he's got less of a competition. There's none of that split. He was falling in draft boards last season because some individuals were not. They're like, oh, is it Logan Thompson's crease? Is it Aiden Hill's crease? Who else could it be? Aiden Hill's got the net to himself now. So, like, if you trust, here's the thing: if you trust a team to do well, you got to trust their goalie, right? A little bit, unless you're Alexander Gorgiev, in which case that rule does not apply.
Yes. I forgot to add this with the Shesterkin pick at number 1 here. Another thing that bothered me with putting him so high is that some point in the middle of last season, I'm not saying that Adam was a part of this, but there were Rangers fans that wanted to have what's his name starting instead. Jonathan Quick starting instead, because he was off to a rough patch in the year. He can't afford that this year.
All goalies, all players, like we all play hockey. We all go through those streaks of where you don't score goals or things aren't going your way. It's a long season. We go through adversity, right? Like the Mets. So I'm not, you know what I mean? Like it's par for the course. You're just hoping that adversity is not long, right? You go through that moment where you kind of struggle and you say, okay, let's readjust, pull everything back together, and you get back into it. So to me, at least, yeah, it doesn't worry me. To me, he is in a class of his own. Igor Shesterkin, Connor Hellebuck, and Jake Onger for me are like 1A. After that, it's a 1B tier. I don't have to go all out to get a goalie early. If those 3 are on the board in my first 2 rounds, I'm leaving with 1. And ideally, if I can get my hands on 2, like I'm set here. I'm set.
All right.
Generational wealth.
We are 40 seconds away from the draft kicking off. Just its usual ESPN mock rules there. A bunch of forwards, 5 defensemen, a utility, 2 goalies, and 5 bench spots. We did do a 10-team league as opposed to 12 to cut down on the number of picks, so we're not going into pick number 238. Don't need to necessarily go that deep all the time, but hey, it was the first mock draft of the season. We wanted to go through as many players as we could here. But we're about to kick things off here. I'll get that up on the screen. Summer mock draft number 2. We'll be doing these for you once a week here on Total Hockey Now. Please give us a rate, review, subscribe, follow on Twitter or YouTube or Facebook for that matter, where you can find our content. But we're always live here on YouTube. That's for sure. Every Tuesday, 5 o'clock. I always forget to throw the audio on these things. So let's see here. We went through our picks pretty quickly.
Wow, Nathan McKinnon was the first pick, so I mean that makes everything easier for me.
I mean,
Gotta
I
go
gotta
Connor
say,
McDavid.
yeah. I mean, Nathan McKinnon, I understand, but I mean, that's a little bit of a bold pick there to take him first. But hey, McDavid is always a top two. David Pastrnak going there to New York Steve Landers at 3. Andy's awesome team. He takes Draisaitl 4th. Vinny's spirited team on the clock now. He's going 5th right before me here. So I like my options that are available to me because I'm going to either get Austin Matthews or Mikko Rantanen, which if we were doing a mock draft where there's actual center, left wing, right wing, Rantanen at right wing is, the creme de la creme up there along with Pastrnak. So, you get one of those two guys. Vinny taking his time here with this pick. Let's see what he does. So far the draft, those are the 3 of the 4 guys you would expect to go. And there goes Austin Matthews. Didn't really had much to think about there. Listen, I know Nikita Kucherov had a fantastic season last year, but how many times can that guy throw his team on the back? I'm going to go with the 51 goal scorer for projections this year, Mr. Mikko Rantanen, with my first pick at forward. And then right after me, we have Nikita Kucherov, a no-brainer there, and Brady Tkachuk, who you expected to go. Fuzzy Chris 91 on the clock. Now, we do know his love of defensemen. He didn't really go crazy last week with going early. Roman Josi sitting right there is the question. What will he
do? New week, same story, man. I need somebody to score goals, so it's gonna be Kirill. Welcome to the squad, buddy.
Don't mind that at all there. And then at 10, we had the auto pick there for Matthew Tkachuk. Certainly not a bad way to go. And then Chris back on the clock.
Now I will take a defenseman because last week I got him sniped because we were in a 12-team league. Welcome in, Cale Makar.
And I did not mean to go over your Connor McDavid pick, Ant, but I mean, there's really not much to say there. McDavid's sitting on the board at number 2. You just, you hit select and you move on. So I'm back on the clock here. I'm tempted to look, and remember, we know the goalie cheat here because goalies go late in these ESPN mocks. So try to keep it honest. Listen, I'm going to take Sidney Crosby here as a last go around. I mean, until he's one of those guys where until he doesn't produce, you have to assume he's going to just put the same numbers up every year. Maybe a very slight decline, but still not a bad way to go. Pick 5, round 2. I got Rantanen and Crosby as my 2 forwards. Now let's see here. Artemi Panarin goes right after me, the Vincent spirited team. JT Miller there to Andy's awesome team. And there goes Rasmus Dahlin, the New York Steve Landers. So yeah, the defenseman getting moved there. Round 3 about to begin once Anthony makes his pick. The other Anthony.
Some of you are listening, and that's good. Please use your handle so I can make sure I avoid you in like best ball drafts because you guys are starting to catch on what I want to do, and that makes my job harder to win money. And I need money because I have a dog.
Now Anthony does a good job there getting Hellebuck. Taking what's considered to be a top overall goalie. Or one of them. We had him at number 2 in our fantasy rankings. You could go back and watch those a few minutes ago. We'll have that clip out later this week as well. Let's see. So I'm on the clock in 3 picks. Quinn Hughes goes. Was kind of hoping he might be there. And now because we have more actual people in this draft, you're starting to see smarter picks happen. Like Quinn Hughes is never available in round 5 or 6. But in this, when you have too many auto picks, sometimes that happens.
That's why I had to take him.
So a really good pick there by Ant. It's starting to get late early on defensemen for me, so I might be forced to, maybe reach a little bit here. Jack Hughes is still on the board. I'm going to go with that, and I'll just wait a little bit longer on a defenseman. I don't think really an explanation is needed to take who's going to drive the Devils' offense there. 3rd pick in round 6. I don't know if he's going to be there in a lot of drafts that late, so I got to take him.
Oh, you guys know where we're at. All right, it's that point of the year. We're going to lock up the most important position in fantasy hockey. Goalies are voodoo. So I will start with Igor Shesterkin, right? We don't need to reaffirmate why.
We had him as our top-ranked goalie earlier.
Right, and I'm going to take my 2nd-ranked goalie right there. Look at that. Jake Onger, welcome in. I'm set. I don't have to worry about goaltending anymore. Thanks.
You're going to win the goaltending categories many weeks, pretty much every week. So there you go. Now I'm back on the clock here. I could go with a defenseman here. There's no real foe. I mean, Connor Bedard's pretty tempting here in round 4. Yeah, screw it. I think he'll have a better year this year after his rookie year. I'm going heavy forward. This is not a strategy I usually employ. Nonetheless, here we are, and that's how you learn. That's how you get an idea of where guys go. It's a mock draft. Do things you don't normally do. get outside your comfort zone. I usually do not go 4 forwards in this format this early, but here I am. So there we go. And then we got Connor Bedard after me. It was Frank Vetrano and Chris Kreider. I don't know about the Vetrano pick, but Chris Kreider, he's still on the Rangers top line, playing with Mika. He's going to get his production, even though they go cold in the playoffs. So they're going to be there in the regular season. There goes Mitch Marner.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
I gotta take that same strategy as Chris here. I gotta shore up the goaltending. I'm gonna go UC Saros here.
He gets Saros, then goes Tavares and Eichel. Anthony's back on the clock here. I don't know what I'm going to do with goaltenders here. I mean, there's still some quality ones on the board, but again, getting late early.
Again, this guy falls to me in the 4th round. I cannot not take White Johnston.
That is your guy this year. Now I know if we're in a league, I got to watch out for you. New York, Steve Lander's back on the clock here. I'm up. There goes a defenseman. That was one guy I was hoping to get. I hope Andy and Vincent aren't watching because, I mean, I'm going to tip my hand here. I don't think I can wait any longer on a defenseman. Yeah, fine. Give me Noah Dobson. I got to take him. I can't wait any longer on defense. Hopefully I can get the guy who I want on the backswing here. We'll see how that goes. Travis Konechny goes. Nick Suzuki goes after my pick there. Fuzzy Chris 91 back on the clock.
Gonna take a run here. Big boy who can score goals. Who knows what we're getting from the Buffalo Sabres, but I'll take Tage Thompson here. He knows how to score goals, right?
That offense goes as Tage Thompson goes. We saw that earlier in the season.
I now need a defenseman because I've only taken one because I wanted to shore up my goaltending. I'm going to go with Dougie here. I don't know what I'm going to get from him this year, but I have a feeling he's still going to be the quarterback of that top power play unit.
Again, but if it was 4 defensemen, maybe I'd wait, but it's 5 defensemen. So you really got to get 2 guys you can really set your watch to. Adam Fox still sitting there. As much as I need to grab goaltending, I feel like I can shore that up a little bit later. So I'm going to take Adam Fox here, get my top 2, get 2 New York defensemen there, sitting there. Somebody took Joel Eriksson-Ek as an auto pick. Can't recommend that. Vinny Trocheck, I would worry about grabbing him in round 5 because as great a season as he had last year, I don't know if he can repeat those numbers this year. I think he can get close to that level. I don't think he will get to that level. A little early to reach there on Trocheck with other quality options on the board. Victor Hedman, it goes, and then there Miro Heiskanen goes. So we got a little bit of a run on defensemen. So I'm glad I got the 2 guys I did. I'm happy with Dobson Fox as a top 2 pairing for my defense.
Just for you, State of Survival, there is no maximum on the forward and defense. The maximum player count is only for the goalie. You cannot have more than 4 goalies. You can have as many forwards and defensemen on your bench as you want.
And again, State of Survival. This is at this time of the year. It's tough to find mock hockey platforms. ESPN is not our favorite, but they do offer them every 5 minutes with a bunch of variety. So that's what we use till Yahoo gets going, and maybe a fan tracks I'll have to follow up on.
Thanks for being here, ESPN. We love you.
Yeah, we love you for like 6 weeks a year, and you do pretty good coverage of the NHL. I gotta say, I like Turner Sports in the United States better, but ESPN does it justice. Ilya Sorokin goes in round 7 there, so maybe a goalie I was trying to wait on and sleep on. He gone. So I can't really get him anymore. I'm on the clock in 2 picks. Sebastian Aho is a forward that I was going to take if he was there. The 7th round, that's a steal of a pick, but will not be for me.
Adam, you have a goalie yet?
I do not have a goalie, my friend. And there goes Clayton Keller from Utah. Pucking thoughts, that would be me on the clock here. I mean, Andrei Vasilevsky's still sitting there. I know Thatcher Demko is, but I don't want to have to worry about getting the tandem. I'm going to take Vasilevsky in round 7 and get my first goaltender there.
I'm gonna take another defenseman here. I know some people are gonna sleep on him a little bit, but again, I don't know what the Washington Capitals are. I know they're frauds. So John Carlson. I mean, I don't see anybody quarterbacking the top unit. So, and then we know we're gonna go with future 40-goal scorer, Cole Caulfield. Right? We need some goals, so we're gonna do that. We're gonna add another guy who could pop.
Of course, you're gonna grab your guy there. Let's take a look here. Looking at the forwards, defensemen, I kind of want to get my goaltending short up to a degree. And get convince me Thatcher Demko needs to, be
Come
there.
on, let's go.
I'll take a Vasilevsky Demko pairing at goaltender for
That's
sure.
what I'm talking about.
All right, and but I mean that Swayman's sitting out there. I could have taken Swayman, but I mean, if somebody wants to snipe me, go get Shilovs at some point.
If somebody wants to.
Quality forwards on the board here. I haven't taken a forward in a few rounds. I may have to look at that again. I was going to take Aho, but that got taken from me. I may have to look at a defense here. We'll see what happens. Anthony on the clock here. We are in round 9. About halfway through here. He takes Kevin Fiala. Certainly not a bad pick. Somebody's got to put the puck in the net for the Kings. We had 2 Kings going back-to-back there. Andrei Kopitar, Kevin Fiala. Owen Tippett can put the puck in the net for the Flyers. Maybe a little early in round 8, but don't mind the pick there. Nazem Kadri. Don't know if what Team 1 is doing there. That is not the pick to make, and that certainly helps us out for making better picks. Anthony grabs Erik Karlsson there, and listen, he's going to get his points. I mean, they may not be a good team. Maybe they bounce back, but he is going to get his production on the power play.
As long as he plays well. Don't care what the Penguins do, as long as Karlsson plays well.
Isn't that fantasy hockey? Just hating, not caring what the team. When someone's like, "Oh, who do you want to win?" You're like, "It really doesn't matter. I just need this player to do something."
Correct. There goes Gustav Forsling. Thomas Hertl, love that pick in round 9. Timo, I'm going to double up on Devils here. I got Hughes. I'll get Timo Meyer there. Sorry, Ant. I'm kind of building your team.
I have no Devils so far. Trying to change my strategy up this year.
I mean, round 9, if Meyer's still sitting there, how do you not take him,
I'm going to go again. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm going to take a defenseman here, another kid. I don't even know if you can drink yet in the United States. Brock Faber.
It's going to have a lot of people are going to jump on him this year.
Someone's got to run the Minnesota power play, whatever it looks like. Then I'm going to go over to New York. Right? Rangers are a good team, good top 6. We saw Lafreniere break out a little bit, maybe to the moon this year. I don't know, but I'll take Alexis Lafreniere, add a little bit more scoring to my offense.
God knows they need it. Let's see here. Jared McCann. Some of this auto pick stuff is just getting out of control at this point. I'm going to go back to the well here. And, there's some good defensemen on the board. But I think Mikhail Sergachev, I'm going to reach on him a little bit. But the fact that he is now the bona fide top defenseman on the Utah Hockey Club, he's going to get that top power play time, going to get a ton of minutes. His production's going to go up. I think he'll stay healthy this year. I'll take him as my 3rd ranked defenseman. Now, want to just throw out there, I didn't throw this up at the beginning of the show, but remember, when you're looking to take Coyotes this year, they're not going to be at the top in alphabetical order under Arizona. You got to scroll down to Utah. So the cover photo for this week, summer mock number 2, you got the sad Wiley Coyote and the sad real Coyote there out in the desert. No more Arizona hockey to watch. So sorry, fellas.
You really did them dirty there.
I did. I was struggling to come up with ideas, and that was what came to me. All right, so we got after Sergachev, Bo Horvat goes to Vincent Spirited team, and Matthias Ekholm over to the Islanders. The Andy's awesome team, and then Matthew Barzal. What State of Survival said before, if the Islanders are going to be more of an up-tempo team, Barzal is certainly a guy that could maybe stand to increase his production and maybe get a little value on him. Team 1 back on the clock here to open round 11. He takes Marco Rossi, a young stud for the Wild, expected to take another step this year. Lots of forwards here on the board as Anthony gets Brad Marchand. I mean, as far as old reliable goes, there he is. Lots of good players still on the board here. Lots of good players still on the board.
Chris, I'm taking a chance on Slafkovsky, man. Tell me more about him, man.
You can't because he's taken. So
I took him.
Yeah.
Sorry. You did. I mean, Slovak King to the moon, by the way. Homie's going to break out now. You can see him with confidence. You can see him starting to feel like himself. If he plays on that top line with Suzuki and Caulfield, Suzuki is one of the best puck moving defense forwards in the NHL, in my mind. He has a vision unlike anybody else. He can get it there. If Montreal's power play could figure it out, that'd be swell. That'd be nice. Speaking of power plays and trying to figure out, I don't know what the Carolina Hurricanes are going to do. I don't even know if Marty Necas is going to be part of that team. But doesn't matter where he is. I believe he's going to score goals. We're going to go with Marty Necas here because we need somebody. And now I took him in our last mock. I still feel comfortable with him as a fifth defenseman. I don't know how Dean Evanson's going to use him, but if he can stay healthy, Zach Werenski, 55, 60 point up, like maybe 60 is stretching, but I mean, taking my chances here.
I think that's a good chance to take.
Now, you took Marty Nachas. I took Seth Jarvis, who vaulted into that top six, and they're going to lean on him heavily. Same strategy there. There's some decent defensemen on the board, so I'm going to wait. Listen, Brock Besser here around the end of round 11. I know he's going to get hurt at some point, but there's a lot. I got to address a lot of forwards in this format. Certainly going to put him out there. Power play time, 40 goals last year. Even if he's only a 30-goal guy this year, I'll take that. So I'll take that in round 12, pick 5, not even round 11. We are in the 13th round here as we move things along. Here in our second mock draft on Total Hockey Now. Please, folks, we love mocky season here. Don't forget, we'll be doing these all summer. Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe on YouTube, follow on Twitter or Facebook at Total Hockey Now. Anthony back on the clock. He gets Luke Hughes with his first pick, and then let's see what he's going to do here. He's going to run the second power play there in New Jersey for sure. And then Brady Shea. It was a guy I was hoping was going to make it back to me.
New York Steve Landers with the Mitchkov pick.
Got to be a Flyers fan. I think he took Konechny before too, if I'm not mistaken. Leo Carlson. Whoa, a little early for that guy.
All right, now we're cooking.
Now we're leaving quality guys on the board here. Charlie McAvoy still sitting out there. There's no reason I can't take him, and it sounds like I sniped him.
Why do you do that? Well,
I should have taken him before Sergachev, to be honest. But that's the wacky ESPN rankings. Joel Farabee. What?
Well, you know what? I'm going to take the player that was queued up here anyways. So I'm going to take Pavel Buchnevich because all he does is rack up points. So we're going to do that. I am going to take a little bit of a risk here. Just a tad of a risk here. Again, he did not go to Edmonton to sit on the sidelines. So Jeff Skinner is going to do something. I don't know what it is, but he's going to do something. High risk, high reward.
Let's face it. If it's a format where goals are rewarded, he's going to get them.
If he's playing next to McDavid, I could at least score one goal if I played next to McDavid. I'm not saying I put it in the net. I'm saying it goes off my shin pad and in. And then I proceed to miss the rest of the season with a broken leg. But puck goes in the net.
I just want to point out that I took Macklin Celebrini in the 14th round. I think that's a pretty good place to get him. And William Eklund going right after him. So, a couple of Sharks picks there. Somebody's got to put the puck in that for San Jose, and that's going to be two of the guys who are going to be relied on doing it. Will Smith, too, is another guy. I don't know if I'm drafting him, but he's definitely a guy that's maybe a late round guy or somebody I'm immediately, putting on my quote-unquote scout team. Jacob Slavin goes there. I still got one forward, one defenseman, a utility, and some bench spots to go. There's still some quality goaltenders out there. If you're looking for a good third goaltender, just going to say, I got a few picks to go before I'm back on the clock, but.
The Steve Landers are trying to figure out how to snipe me next. Oh, not this time. Okay. Perfect.
Take a look at Anthony's team. McDavid, Wyatt Johnston, Sebastian Aho, Kevin Fiala, Yuri Slavkovsky, Brad Marchand, Quinn Hughes, Josh Morrissey, Eric Carlson, Luke Hughes, Brady Shea. That's a good 5 there. He adds Nikolai Ehlers to the mix there. Sam Bennett goes after him, and then Evander Kane. He's got Hellebuck and Saros as well. It's as good a 1-2 punch as you're going to have. Let's see. Anthony back on the clock. Let's take a look at it. And he takes Brandon Hagel, a guy that Chris was big on last week. Looking at Chris's team here with Steve Landers on the clock. Kirill Kaprizov, Tage Thompson, Cole Caulfield, Lafreniere, Natchez, Schnevich, Skinner. He's got his defensemen locked up with Makar, Hamilton, Carlson, Faber, Werenski, and Shesterkin, Ettinger. If Swayman's still sitting out there, I got to take him as my third goalie, and that's a good enough goalie that if Demko gets hurt, I'm okay with the fact that I still have those two as my goalies.
Absolutely.
I'm going to make this one a little bit quicker. I'm going to take Quinn Byfield here. I don't think they're going to play him at center. I think he's still going to get the opportunity to play on the wing, so that helps him out here. I'm really trying to reach here a little bit.
Strong back-to-back auto pick here by Vince Dunn and Mark Scheifele by Team 10. Those are good value picks.
I'm going to take a chance here. Maybe he bounces back a little bit. Jonathan Huberdeau.
Oh, there goes Thomas Harley. Kirill the Thrill Marchenko. I am back on the clock here. I could go forward. I could go defense. I'm just trying to see. I got, Elias Lindholm is there. That is tempting, but I think I'd rather get my fifth defenseman here situated. I panic picked him last week, but I think Morgan Riley's going to get a lot of points in Toronto just playing. So as a fifth defenseman, fine. Not a third defenseman. Fifth defenseman, I'll take him. Now, hopefully the forward I was looking at is still out there by the time the draft comes back to me. Here we are in round 17. Or about to be in round 17 as round 16 wraps. There goes Bobrovsky. Dylan Collins, Elias Lindholm. So I don't feel bad about not taking Lindholm if the guy after me takes him, because that means I was thinking about him at the right time.
Thank you for taking Morgan Riley on defense and not taking my pick, which will be Sean Dursey from Utah.
I don't want to double up on the Coyotes defenseman there. I'm gonna, I could have, but I don't love to do that at a position where I'm only dressing. I mean, 5's a lot for a defense, but I don't usually like to double up on the same team with defensemen. Just a thing I have. All right, Anthony back on the clock here. And he gets Ryan O'Reilly. He's going to, and for the same reasons I mentioned last week. Just a solid pick, top 6 on a really good team. Starting to get late early on these forwards here. There goes Ryan McDonough from the Lightning, Charlie Coyle, Michael Bunting, and I am back on the clock here, and I need to start filling out forwards, and I need to start doing it quickly. Not going to take Valery Nichushkin. Not going to take Joe Pavelski. At this point, we're just looking for production. And hey, Robert Thomas, 26 goals, 60 assists. I'll take 86 points at this point in the draft. Somebody's got to he's going to be centering Pavel Buchnevich on the top line. So, byproduct production.
We're going to go again to, I don't think, players who can drink in the United States yet. We're going to go with Adam Fantilli. I don't know what Dean Evanson's going to do in Columbus, but I'm assuming Fantilli's going to be part of it. I'm also going to take a little bit of a shot here. We're getting to that point where we can start to throw some darts. Dylan Guenther. He's not going to, if he makes the lineup in Utah, he's not playing in the bottom of the lineup. And for all the stuff that went on for him to get there, let's see how that goes.
I got to go forward again here, and I'm going to be honest. I'm buying into the Sean Monahan, Johnny Gaudreau reunion. Good players on bad teams. Round 18. Why not give me Sean Monahan? He could be my utility, and let him and Gaudreau, whatever points they get, I know I'll have a share of it. There goes Patrick Laine from Columbus. A couple of Columbus players going here. Anthony back on the clock. See what Anthony's got left to fill here. He's got all of his bench spots. So he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One of those has got to be a goalie. We'll see what else he does. It doesn't have to be a goalie, but I would imagine one will be.
Let's go Logan Couture here.
We'll see what happens with him and the Sharks. If they do play him, they're going to try and, maybe trade him if possible. I don't know how tradable he is, but, if they do play him, they're going to, let him be the leader of a young team. So he'll be in that top 6. There goes Linus Ullmark in round 19. I mean, listen, not going to get a lot of wins, but he'll get a lot of saves. That's for sure. Anthony back on the clock here as he's trying to make some of his final picks. We wind things down.
Taking a chance here.
Why not? If he's going to be in that playing with McDavid in that top 6 at some point, or maybe even on the power play, why not? And now I'm at Pucking Thoughts. That means I'm on the clock here. Let's see. Matty Beniers. Somebody's going to have to drive some of that Seattle offense. Round 19, I'll take him. I know I took him last week, but why not? I think late in the late drafts, Matty Beniers is a guy you can target and hopefully get some value out of. We got 3 rounds to go here. 3 picks to go.
I'm going to take a third goalie. I feel like I'm going to need one. So we're going to take Philip Gustafson. I'm going to do that. And again, we're going to take another bit of a dart here. With Joe Pavelski now out of the picture, someone's got to step into the top 6 in Dallas. And maybe that's Logan Stankoven.
He certainly, when in the playoffs last year, he had a bit of a coming out party late in the season as well. So not a bad pick to make. This is the time of the draft where you're taking your shots. And I'm back on the clock here. And I took him last week I'm going to double up on the Blackhawks top line here. Teuvo Teravainen. I don't mind late in drafts. I certainly don't mind that pick. So we got a couple of rounds to go here before we do a quick recap and say farewell on this edition of Total Hockey Now here on Total Hockey Now's YouTube channel. Jonathan Drouin there, don't mind that. He certainly found a comfortable place to produce in Colorado last year, so no reason he can't replicate that. I still need another defenseman here on my bench and a forward here, so let's see what's available. I know who I want. See if he's there by the time it gets back to me. A few picks away. There goes Keandre Miller. Anthony did not snipe me. Thank you. I like that pick. There goes Pierre-Luc Dubois, and why not? Round 21, his last chance. And there goes Craig Anderson, who seems to be taken every week in one of these mock drafts.
Well done, Craig.
Maybe there's something about Craig that the three of us aren't aware of, but Shea Theodore, I'm going to grab him. And don't forget, in Mitch Marner trade rumors, Theodore with Vegas, Theodore is a defenseman that was, rumored to be included going back. That doesn't mean anything, but Theodore is going to play well on that Vegas team. So,
I'm going to take a player. I don't want to. Johnny Gaudreau.
Hey, we got each half of the share. Good job. We can celebrate together when we go. There goes Yaroslav Halak, who is, I don't even know if he's in the league.
Jeff Glass. I was really looking forward to Jeff Glass. I'll take another player that I don't really enjoy, but I guess the upside is there, and Jake DeBrusk.
That's a great pick, and I wish I probably would have taken him sooner had I realized that. And here's my last pick of the draft here. I could take Mark Stone. I don't like that he's not healthy a lot. I'm going to take a chance on Trevor Zegras that he gets traded and produces where he goes. Certainly last pick of the draft there. Don't mind that. And then Anthony's got one more pick to make, and then we'll do a quick recap of the teams here before we say adios on this edition of THM. But we'll be back with another mock draft next week. We'll look at another divisions odds next week. We'll do another top 10 ranking as well next week. So we give you a full pod here.
The best thing about this draft right now, and it's not going to last for long, is that the rankings are all out of sorts, which leads me again to Jacob Markstrom with my last pick of the draft.
Damn. I can't believe Anton Hudobin went before him. Well, what are
Craig Anderson?
Craig Anderson, Danny Taylor.
Let's do a little screen share recap of our teams here. I'm up on the screen. May as well just run through mine. Mikko Rantanen, know he's going to produce in that top line in Colorado. Crosby in the second round, nothing wrong there. Jack Hughes in the third round, absolutely will take that. Bedard in the fourth round for sure. Maybe waited a little long to get defenseman, but hey, I got a Norris finalist there. I got a previous Norris winner right there and back-to-back picks. So I think I did a good job shoring up my blue line and addressing it and making sure I got a couple of cornerstones. Get my goaltending taken care of, a back-to-back picks there. I do love to do that. Like, just make sure that way I don't have to think about it for a little while. 2 top 10 goalies in our rankings there. Timo Meier, he's going to have a better year this year because he's not going to be playing on 2 hurt legs. Sergachev is my third defenseman, even though McAvoy was sitting there. I probably should have taken him and swapped those 2 picks, probably would make sense. Jarvis, I'm hoping, has an increased production in Carolina. We know what you're getting out of Besser. Swayman, that it's a steal. He's not going to be there in actual drafts. Celebrini, got to take him there, 14th round. And then, we're just looking at the back end of the roster here. We talked about these guys recently as we picked them. I don't mind any of those guys late in the draft. I'm happier with my draft this week than I was last week. So very happy with that team.
Yeah, that's okay. I can live with that. I guess I will run through mine here. Let me pick.
I really like your
one.
top 5 there. That's a good top 5 picks right there.
All right. So now Chris is going to take his turn at the stage.
Look at this beautiful team here. Kirill Kaprizov, you need goals, right? And then Cale Makar, Old Faithful. Igor Sturkin, Jake Onger, nothing wrong with taking goalies early. Tage Thompson, Dougie, John Carlson, obviously Cole Caulfield, right? Brock Faber, Alexi Lafreniere. Let's see if he can if he can stick in that top line from the New York Rangers. It's good. Martin Necas, we'll see you somewhere. Zach Werenski, Pavel Buchnevich. I feel like he gets forgotten, but he's good. Jeff Skinner, upside here. Quentin Byfield, same thing. Maybe he can build off another good season. Jonathan Huberdeau, anything better than last year is good. Adam Fantilli, Dylan Gunther, young players. bad. Columbus is a bad hockey team. We'll find out what Utah is. Philip Gustafson, your third goalie. Logan Stankoven, that's the player I think he's going to get a little bit forgotten. We'll find out where he's going to fit in that lineup. He was doing pretty good stuff in a small sample size last season. Let's see how it works. Johnny Gaudreau, hate him. And then Jake DeBrusk. I don't know if there's enough power play time for him, but he's definitely got a spot in Vancouver's top 6. So,
love that pick. Wish I had grabbed it.
All right. Let's share here.
And we're going to take a look at Anthony's team. And I think he had a pretty good draft there as well. Let's take a, listen, McDavid with the 2nd overall pick, no brainer.
Yeah. I feel like I have the top 3 players at each position right here with Connor McDavid, Hellebuck, and Quinn Hughes. I know it's debatable. I know people will debate it, but at least I feel like that way. UC Saros as my 2nd goalie, had to go early and get, double goalies. I always love Wyatt Johnston, so I feel like getting him in that 4th round is a nice little spot for him. Josh Morrissey, Aho, Kevin Fiala, finally glad to have him back on my team. Eric Carlson and Brad Marchand. You know what you're getting with those 2 guys. Got the youth in Slavkovsky and Hughes. Gabriel Sage, Nikolai Ehlers, Hagel, Sean Dursey, O'Reilly. I guess I'm taking a kind of a chance on Couture, like you mentioned earlier. We'll see what happens with him down in San Jose. Khrushchev also taking a chance on Fowler, Miller, and, the rankings brought me Jacob Markstrom. That's what I'll say.
For sure. I'll say this about Fowler. He's a guy that's usually like out there on waiver wires, but if you play dressing 5 defensemen in a format, he's going to get power play time. Listen, he's nothing sexy or flashy, but you know what you're going to get. You get the same numbers out of him every year, and it's reliable. So love that Fowler pick there late to kind of fill out your defenseman. Now, listen, hit us up with your we're going to post, we're doing this every week. Right? We enjoy this. We'll have we try to change up the formats a little bit. Maybe a week we'll do a best ball one, or we'll do like an 8 team, but we try to mix it up a little bit and have some fun. But as always, we had fun with the mock drafts today. Don't forget, folks, again, you saw it there on the screen. Rate, review, subscribe on YouTube at Total Hockey Now. Same thing on Twitter and Facebook. And don't forget, it's baseball season. You got the Subway to Shea podcast there going on with Anthony, and the Mets certainly still in the wild card mix there. And then Rip and Riff, myself, and Mr. Jared Moore, new episode coming out tomorrow. We hit up all 4 sports. Slapshot podcast is in the off season. Maybe that will be returned next year. Always love having Chris here with our podcast. But fellas, how do we feel? Today was a good day. We jam-packed show.
We did. I liked coming together for our top 10 list and having that one definitive list for our top 10 goalies this season.
A lot of bipartisan work there on our half. Well done.
We got it done. It was, there was some where we had guys higher and lower, but we talked it out. And I think we've got a pretty established top 10 ranking there. And we'll post that later on Twitter as well. But for at Rivera86 and for at FuzzyChris91, I am at Pucking Thoughts. Adam Bernard, State of Survival. Appreciate the kind words. Always appreciate you tuning in, whether you're watching live or on a replay later. We'll be back with you next Tuesday with an all-new episode of Total Hockey Now here on the Total Hockey Now YouTube network.